Inspirational.
Patient.
Compassionate.
Enthusiastic.
Caring.
Motivator.
Hardworking.
Considerate.
Fierce.
Integrity.
Mentor.
Strong.
Determined.
Trustworthy.
Dedicated.
Over the 30 years that he's been a coach and teacher, has just grown into the role. I've just been amazed at the influence that he's had over a lot of different lives, both in coaching and teaching, and just the maturity that's occurred with that.
I learned a lot about focus. I remember being on the track team. Of course, he's the coach, and I'm a high jumper. I remember he told me, he told all of us, that one of the best ways to prepare is to visualize what you're going to do and carry it out. Make sure you have all your attention and all your focus on the task at hand, and that's winning.
He'd be brutally honest with you, and I mean, I respect that more than anything. I would tell him, hey, I want to go to maybe a Division I school or something, and he would, well, either you're not big enough or you're, but he didn't say it in a way that would put you down, kind of. He's just telling you had to work harder. If this is your goal, I'll help you get there. But, you know, right now, this is what you need to do. These are the steps you need to take. He didn't say, oh yeah, sure, go for it, and just leave it at that. He go, well, you're not ready for it. This is what you need to do. And so that honesty was awesome.
Coach taught me to perform at your best every day, and that the race is with yourself. We would set goals, and even today in my life, I set goals for the long term. But it's in the moment, it's in that specific day that you're there where you're reaching your goals. And that it's not necessarily about what you did or did not do, it's just, did you do enough to make yourself better that day? When I look at the 4 years of pole vaulting, and I would call myself average, but by no means would Coach let me call myself average, and he would cringe if he heard me say that today. Because in his mind, he saw where I started as a freshman and where I ended as a senior. And that, to him, that was the accomplishment. That was what to him was above average, because I did come a long way in 4 years, not just as an athlete, but as a human being, as a kid who was on its way to becoming a man.
I mean, he's such an upright, strong leader. He really listens very well, is very respectful for other students, really cares about them, not just about how they do on the track or how they do in the classroom, but he does so well with caring about what they do after college. It was very common for Crosley to really follow up with some of the students when they left, you know, and the thing he asked wasn't how well did you do in college with your track, is how are you doing now? You know, what's life taking you? Where is God taking you? And he just continued to care so much more about our lives, because even though track was important to us here, he found that there's so much more to life than just sports. It's what we do with our life, with our families and our faith and our careers, and that's kind of the thing that really spoke to me the most.
I coach track the way that I coach track. I try to get on that level with my kids. I try to have a relationship with them that's not just I'm your coach and you're my student athlete. I try to get to know them and have fun with them. At the same time, when it's time to get down and get busy, it's time to get down and get busy. But I want to have that good, positive, solid relationship with them like he had with me.
I was definitely very quiet. He was a big part of getting me out of that shell and turned me more into a leader. And even if I didn't have to be the most vocal person, just kind of more leading by example and bringing people along with you, especially as the freshmen came in, and just showing them the way of how to do things.
Been a very religious man. People don't realize, I mean, he don't broadcast it, he don't make a big deal out of it, but I know he believes, because, you know, every day his wife sits in front of him and he believes that the good Lord's helping him out, taking care of him as best they can, and he's just there for his family, his kids. He loves his kids, and I know he loves Gay a lot. I know that, I've seen that through the years. So, you know, I know sometimes it's probably tough on him, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to show you. He's always got his best foot forward. That's what I admire about him. You know, he's made me that kind of person.
So, Crosley was really a big father figure for me here, because I just felt like with all the young boys and I was so new, he really helped me establish my ground rules and my philosophy of education. We always had a really great joking relationship, but professionally he was always at the epitome, I mean at the top. I noticed that from the first time I ever worked with him, in the fact that he was so great with the kids. They had a real love for him. I started coaching 3 sports right out of the gate when I started here, and so watching him not only as a coach but as a teacher, I realized that his main goal was to raise men and women to be good people first. Athletics was secondary to him. He wanted them just to be good people, and that really resonated with me from the time I started student teaching here, and that really impacted me when I became a coach then as well.
I think what I respect about Coach Crosley, and of course I only know him from the children's perspective and from a parental perspective, watching him, how the respect that he demanded from the kids, but he didn't have to say, "You will respect me." He showed respect, therefore he got respect. So I have to say that I watched him, and therefore it gained my trust in him at all times.
I know Coach Crosley always talked about the importance of working hard in anything, particularly when we would have those long practices.
Heights High School absolutely raised me, and there's a handful of guys here who were my positive role models, and Coach Crosley was one of them. And at the time, you never know just how much that teacher meant to you or the coach meant to you. But as I reflect now as an adult, and you know, the feeling that I get when I see him, whether it's, you know, he's at the Southgate during a football game, you know, I always have to make a moment to go over and talk to Coach Crosley, just because as I reflect now as an adult, you know, he was one of the people that raised me.
I mean, he was always a good person to go and talk to. If you had issues with something with a teacher or another student, you know, you always run something past Crosley, because he's always there to listen. I mean, that was one of the things that, you know, a lot of people went to him for, was just to talk to him, because he was a very good listener.
He's such a family man, in addition to being a good teacher and coach, and that he's always worked really hard to provide for us. And in the past 4 years, we've both gone through some illnesses, and just the fact that he's role modeled to our children, to how he's been so available and very caring, and just going above and beyond to help me with whatever, if I've had surgery or chemotherapy or whatever. And I just think it's just been awesome that they've been able, our children and hopefully others also have been able to see how he has just been so committed and loving.
No matter his mom, his dad, his wife, his kids, us as student athletes, he cared about everybody the same way. He didn't look at anybody as different or an outcast or anything like that. I was the biggest problem he ever dealt with. And just to have him in my corner was one of the biggest life changes that I've ever had. So.
He's always there for you when you're in the trenches. He's, you know, helping you get through the hard times. You know, he's encouraging you to get to the next level.
Coach with him, he makes you study. He makes you want to know how to do everything, because as he sells it, it's always for the kids. He's not doing it for accolades, he's doing it for the kids. We won 8 out of 10 years in a row for City League about the kids. He didn't, Crosley, great job. It's about the kids. The kids did this, the kids did that, and that's something that not a lot of people do nowadays. Everybody wants that accolade themselves, and that's something I learned from him. It's about the kids.
He was so good at putting the pieces together to just have a full team. With track, you've got the individual accolades, but then just the full team. At the meet, we're trying to win as a team. And he knew how to put those pieces together to get maximum results.
And so he takes time to go talk to the 8th grade track coaches about who are going to be my top freshmen. And he starts making contact with these kids in the first 9 weeks. He'll come in sometimes to my class and introduce himself as the track coach and, hey, I'm going to be keeping an eye out on you and, checking up on your grades and just letting them know that he's there from day one. And I think that really does a lot for the kids because they know, yeah, track is a long time away, but this guy is going to keep track of me starting now.
When I came to Heights and sat through a couple classes, I noticed a lot had changed since I was in school, for sure. And Crosley was the first one that when the first day of the new semester, he didn't just go through his syllabus, he didn't just break down what they were going to be doing all year, but he had something in there that was different than all the other teachers, and it was about respect. He wasn't just talking about the students giving him respect, he was talking about how he was going to give them respect, explaining how we are all on the same playing field, we're the same people, we just need to appreciate one another. And as long as you're respecting me, I'm gonna respect you. And it's easy for an adult to say, I'm your teacher, you need to respect me. But it's not very often you come across an adult saying, I'm an adult and I'm going to respect you as a child.
Teaching. I think the first thing he tries to do is build a relationship with you and get to know you and to find out what makes you tick. And I think he's pretty good at finding out what buttons to push on certain kids. Hollering and screaming isn't going to motivate every kid. Sometimes he'll bring a kid underneath his wing and just kind of talk to him. Sometimes if that kid needs that, then that's what he does.
In many ways, he's a kid himself, so he kind of has an understanding of where an adolescent's mind is at. So he was able to utilize that knowledge and that childlikeness to himself to his advantage.
Coach Wheeler's like, oh, Coach Crosley was telling me you were the best player before you got injured. And now I knew that was a lie, because I know that I was by far not the best player by any means. And, Coach Crosley was like, well, let me clarify. I said you were the most consistent player. And it just, in that moment, I just kind of thought to myself, I was like, he could have lied and said, oh yeah, sure, you bet I said that. Or he could have been, mean about it or something. But he was just, that's how he was, I guess. He wasn't mean and he was honest, but he did it in a way that didn't make you feel bad.
Just his ability to relate with kids, get them to do what they need to do, him being enthusiastic, him being excited, getting the kids excited about whatever they're doing, like it being in the classroom or in the gym.
If I remember correctly, just going back and talking to him, because I was just a personally weird kid at the time, and just really sat back there and was able just to open up and have him listen and just have a great conversation. I think that impacted me because it kind of shaped my mindset of how I wanted to approach high school.
I think in high school, I'm sure there's a lot of times where we just kind of want to goof off and we have talent, and I believe that he really recognized the talent that a lot of us had. So in track, I had this talent that I probably was not tapping into the way that I should have, and so he would definitely be that voice of encouragement to kind of push through the silliness of just how you are in high school and, look at what could be if you really work hard at it.
I've never been around a coach that brings out and inspires somebody more than Coach Crosley did. He always found the best of people and took the best of people and helped them make him better.
I think the main thing is the energy. That guy had unbelievable energy. He probably still does to this day. Like, for what all the family has been going through, man, my heart goes out to you guys, man. I believe with his spirit, he can pull through anything. I really do.
Things can be real bad, but he doesn't ever come across that way. He makes you understand that it's all relative. and that there's a bigger picture out there. And I think that's really important for our kids when they're in some serious situations. He lets them know, hey, there's a light. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
This building, he's going to be so greatly missed. I don't joke with anybody like I joke with him. I don't get the sense of stability with anybody like I get with him. You know, if I'm concerned about a child or upset personally about something, I mean, he's just such a stabilizing force that he truly is irreplaceable.
You've been an example and like a rock here at Heights for all these years, and I think you've made a mark in heaven for your service and your ministry to the staff and students at Heights.
He has built a lot of relationships over the past 30 years with faculty and parents and the students themselves and his family. And I think that has garnered a lot of respect for him, for his caring attitude, and the fact that he has been so involved with so many different people.
The track team was definitely family, whether or not you're in field or if you're on, track events, it was family.
Right.
So we had good times.
Yes.
Good times.
I remember one time I was running late, and it was just Crosley sitting there. Crosley and my son just sitting there waiting. And that brought back memories from when he would do that for us. So it was a cool little thing to, that was the first thing I thought of when I saw him when I pulled around the corner was that particular aspect.
An announcement came over the PA system that Virgil Bennick had passed away overnight. And the comfort that he showed every single student in that classroom, it's one that I will never forget. He treated each one of us like one of his own children to make sure that we were all right.
With his track background, with Vic's track background, boys are all running for Coach Crosley. And I know he understands track, so I'll ask Vic, so Vic, should they be doing that? He's like, wait, I'm the dad at home. On the field, Crosley is the dad. And the boys knew that, they respected that. They did not go to dad for input. They respected Coach Crosley, and that's what they went by.
Although I tried to sneak a little input in.
Yeah.
So I'm not very great with math, and Dad is good with math. And over the last few years, I've had to take some harder math classes, and he's spent hours upon hours, no matter what time of the year it is, in the middle of track, and it's off seasons, whatever, just working on it with me and pouring his heart out so I can learn and get through the class and really gain knowledge from it. And I think he does that with his students in the classroom, but also his athletes. And so it's just really meaningful to me because I don't like math, and he would rather do a million other things in that time, but he's willing because he loves me.
He was a good athlete. He was a good, I felt sorry for him. In Pretty Prairie, we're not a very big school. Not a lot of kids go out. We were always undersized. As a quarterback, he ran for his life every game. There wasn't a game that poor guy didn't run for his life. And at first I don't think he wanted to play quarterback, but he was our best quarterback we ever had.
I had already won the event, and I was going for the school record at that time. I believe it was 6'6". And I remember being all hyped up and nervous and stuff, and here was this calm man. Just relax. You don't have to do the record today. I was like, no, I want to do the record. I gotta do the record. And so they set the bar to 6'6". He's like, just remember your form. Just see what you're doing, and you can do it. I missed it the first attempt because I messed up on my 11-step approach. He just kept watching. He didn't make a face. He had that coach's stance when he needed to. But that second attempt, I made it. And he just simply told me, I knew you could do it. Congratulations, you've done a good job. And sometimes that's all a kid really needs to hear, to feel his worth and what he's doing.
Crosley taught me so much when I was his first sprinter. He met me as a sophomore, and I just won my 200 race, and I thought I was big stuff, and he looked at me and said, you need to run harder. And so that right there changed everything for me. He came in my junior year and made me realize that track was a little bit tougher. He made me work hard and told me I had to be in the fast heats. And don't be complacent. Don't just want to win your heat. You want to be one of the best.
Percy, Robert Reed, decided to go against the grain a little bit, and me being younger, I wanted to follow with the in crowd. So I got nominated to ask a couple questions that really wasn't jiving that day, and Crosley decided to kick me out of practice. And I looked at him and I was like, "You're serious, right?" And he go home. And ever since that day forward, I've never went against the grain. I've always went with everything that was said. I always tried to be a leader instead of a follower.
Just going off by themselves, warming up. They didn't want to be around people. And it was just a couple of minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes before the race was supposed to start, and we couldn't find the team. And everybody was in panic mode, running all over Cessna Stadium and surrounding areas, trying to find them. And I remember Crosley saying, it looks like we're gonna have to scratch them. And I said, just give it time, they'll show up. And sure enough, they showed up, and the end result was a state record that they still hold today. So he was sweating bullets before that race, and so I still kind of laugh about that today.
But even after that race, you know, Coach Crosley tries to be kind of low-key and, you know, kind of professional almost always, and after that race, he was so excited. He was as excited as the boys, like, yes, you know, everybody else is screaming and hollering, but just to watch him, the excitement on his face, you could tell he's like, we did this. And it was we, including him and the boys, but he gave them their due. But they couldn't have done it without his coaching.
And I'm sure that every year since, when he goes to the state meet and open up that booklet and see Wichita Heights, I'm sure that still makes him feel proud.
Unfortunately, state was right after graduation, so after school was out, I still had to go back to school and practice, and I still had to run, and I still had to get ready, and I still had to go in and do my event, which was the quarter. My entire senior year, I had been undefeated, and so I was stoked, I was ready to go, but I just wasn't feeling it. I have a confession. My best friend, who happened to be in state at the same time in the same event, went to Southeast, and me and him grew up from, you know, knee high up. Me and him actually got together and talked about it, and we decided we were going to try to tie the state meet race. And so we actually ran it, and we tried to tie. He ended up beating me by 100th of a second. So that I've kept with me all this time, knowing that I had already had things set in place for scholarships and all that. I was able to go out to state and just have fun. I still got a medal, but I was able to enjoy myself and do great things later on.
I think that was the glue that first held us together and has kept us together, is sense of humor, and he can be really goofy.
I just love how his humor in general, like he was always cracking jokes, and even if it was a little nonchalant, it was always there, and you could hear me in the background of the classroom just kind of giggling, trying not to interrupt the class. But
I try to keep up with him on comebacks, but he is so seasoned in his humor, and I will think of things after I leave and sometimes come back and say, here, this is what I meant to say.
He's quite the smartass, and I can appreciate that.
Some of his jokes are a little painful, super I'm a dad joke. But usually they're so embarrassing I laugh. And then sometimes he does have some actual funny jokes that do make me laugh.
His sense of humor, great sense of humor. Always got a good joke. Always has a play on words.
Crosley would always talk mess, and just seeing this little bitty dude talking mess.
And I don't know that it was anything too bad, but it was just one of those things where it's like we were high school kids and some things were a little taboo, and he'd let a zinger go every once in a while, and you just kind of had to laugh it off because you couldn't believe he was saying it. But
snappy comebacks every time you'd come off a race and be like, Coach, I'm not racing my next race. And he'd have something quick with it, just to say right then and there. and then you just walk off because you wouldn't know what else to say to him. You just, okay.
I've called him a lot of things. I'm trying to think.
A lot of times in the weight room and stuff, he'd joke around, and there, back in the late 80s and 90s, there was a thing, you know, you're a stud muffin, you're cool or whatever, and he'd either go, you're a stud muffin or you're a rafter biscuit. And he kept calling me rafter biscuit, which, you know, today I hope that's good. I don't know.
He'll never quit. He always has something else to say.
His age, I always tell everybody, especially when we were coaching, I would tell everybody he's 80. And I was like, he was my coach and I'm old, guys. And they're like, are you really 80? He's like, no, I'm not 80. You know, he was always grandpa, or he was always the old man around us.
Oh gosh, and just doing silly things like singing to Staying Alive and
flopping. He goes, you know, Flippy, one day I'm gonna be 80 years old, sitting in my rocking chair, gumming my oatmeal, and I'm just gonna
He kind of yells my name, and it's my last name. He always goes, Parker!
When his athletes are nearing the end of their race, he becomes very animated and just super excited and really into the race and cheering for them, and is probably the loudest person there.
Crosley looks exactly the same.
A little bit more gray hair.
Feature-wise, you know.
Dude had great hair, man. That thing was always combed back, always looking sharp.
Well, back then he had a mustache. You know, it used to come down and it used to stretch up and do these big curls at the end. So it was almost like Coach was more like a pirate.
100 degrees, 200 degrees, it didn't matter. He had a hot cup of coffee. The finest quality of any man.
I always wondered if Coach Crosley had more than a pair, like 2 pairs of clothing, because the thing that he always wear, especially when I was here for 4 years, he always wore windbreaker pants and long sleeve windbreaker jacket. And regardless of how stinking hot it was out there, he would always wear that thing.
And I hear
He's not a skinny guy, you know, so I know he's sweating, but he looks so comfortable and so relaxed, and I was just like, dude.
He always kept his goatee and mustache looking trim too, man. He didn't step on the field slouching, no matter what he was wearing.
Yeah, we tease a lot, back and forth, and really nothing's off limits.
The hiding of the coffee pot, constantly trying to aggravate him because he gets to be very grumpy without his coffee.
He always gives you that look, like, I know what you're saying, but I know who you are.
He could chew your butt in a heartbeat and then turn right around right after he's done and smile and best friends again. It was the funniest thing. It's like, uh-oh. You know, his voice is so big, you know, you think he's 7'4", and then when you look at him, you're like, oh, you're in Lord of the Rings. You know, I love him, but I wouldn't tell him that to his face.
Just through video.
Just through video where I'm safe.
Some of the things we used to laugh at, we go to KU relays, and Crosley would order his steak rare. And I'm like, oh my God, did they even cook it? 2 seconds on the grill and it's just nasty, but he loved it.
And then he was also a conspirator on saran wrapping my car. And it took me over a half hour to get out of the shrink wrap of them saran wrapping my car during parent-teacher conferences. So every parent was driving by watching that.
Coach Shook, before a baseball game, was down in the locker room, and he can be kind of wound tight at times. And as everyone's describing it, he's in the locker room and he's chewing on his thumb like he always does, and he's chewing his thumb. And Coach Crosley sneaks up behind him with a starting pistol for track, and bam! And Coach Shook pretty much shot through the roof. And
him and I decided one night after football we would go out and hunt jackrabbits. I had an old Oldsmobile, big white one. We called it Casper. It was just a big Oldsmobile. And he was riding on the front end with his .22, and I was driving, and I went into the field because we saw a bunch of them. And all of a sudden I hit a hole and I heard the gun go off and I didn't find Steve. And oh my gosh, I'll never forget to this day. And I said, how am I going to tell Coach that I almost killed his son? But I kept looking for him and couldn't find him. Finally he pops up and I go, you okay? And he goes, yeah. And he said, but we better not use them guns anymore. So we went to hedge apples. Isn't that right, Steve?
I also remember bringing my guitar into practice sometimes, and I'd leave it in the office because I couldn't lock it in the locker. It was too big to put in there. And I had a little practice amp with it. I said, do you mind if I keep my guitar and amp in the office? He said, oh yeah, sure. It was after practice, and I went to the office to go get my things, and he goes, so, can you play this thing actually? I said, yeah. And he asked me if I knew Smoke on the Water. And in my mind, I'm like, even the most uneducated punk rocker knows that tune, you know. I played a few bars for him, and he's like, right on, don't give up your day job, Greg. Don't give up your day job.
No, at a faculty meeting, I tried to sneak up from behind and he was seated, and I put a rear naked choke on him, and he stood up with me on his back and slammed me into a wall. And Bruce, our principal, absolutely lost his mind. He thought we were serious, and I wouldn't let go. So he started calling me basically Spider Monkey. And now it's my big thing is I run around the building when he's not looking, and I try to throw rear naked chokes on him all the time.
I would always try to outsmart him in football stuff, and he's a great football mind. And we would always, last person with the chalk, because we had chalkboards back then. And he would always find some way to beat me, and I'm like, oh my God.
You know, being a sophomore on the football team, I was the third string quarterback and wasn't gonna play as a sophomore, and the starter got hurt, and then the second string quarterback got hurt in pregame. The kicker kicked his thumb and broke his thumb, and so I went out there. I'd been paying attention in practice, but you know, Coach Wheeler calls a play. He was our offensive coordinator at the time, and I kind of changed it. And on my very first play as a varsity quarterback, and I changed the play, and I came to the sideline, and I remember Rick just screaming at me at the top of his lungs, and Crosley was going off on me, and I don't remember what they said, but I just remember going, oh, I'm never doing that again.
As a hurdler, it was really important for me to have good flexibility. And so when I wasn't to the place that I needed to be, he would always stand up and just touch the floor with his palms to the ground and say, see, if this old man can do it, so can you.
And if we weren't doing it right, he'd get against the wall and he would show you how to do it. And I can distinctly remember him doing that drill over and over and just hearing his voice and seeing his old self get against the wall and do it too. Cut that part out, don't tell him I said he was old.
I always think of him in track season when I'm teaching like warm-up stretches, because I'll do them and I'll be like, look, I'm old and fat and I can do it. And I know that he used to say that to me.
I never forget his socket pocket rule for running. He'll show you socket pocket,
He shows me that all the time. We'll be doing something completely random, not related to track at all. Or we might be on the track working out or having to run, and Brandon's always like, sister, socket pocket. I'm just like,
don't forget, socket pocket.
He drives me crazy.
I tell him, Crosley, let me high jump. He'll tell me to go run, you know, a 4:30 mile or something, you know, just really quick, and then I'll just walk off.
Remember is when he would impart one of his life lessons on you, he'd always hold you close and he'd be right there in your face looking at you, and he had his other hand on your backside just giving you a nice pat. Like,
for whatever reason, I think it was my senior year, after the last stretch of the 800, I'd get real tired and my head start bobbing side to side. And of course, they always tell you want to move forward, not waste all the extra energy. And so he's like, quit moving your head. And this was like one of the last track meets that I was running. And he's like, quit moving your head, like right there at the turn. And he's like, don't move your head, quit moving your head, quit moving your head. And then my little sister, she ran track after I graduated. And she started doing the same thing. So when I would come out and like pick her up from track, he's like, you need to talk to your sister about moving her head. She's moving her head too. I don't know what it is, but quit moving your head. So
you know, my butt's retracted as much as possible. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Coach, you really taught me what is now my best and favorite dance move. Every time I go out to the clubs, just getting out there and the Fallsbury technique. I appreciate that very much.
And we point out bad form too. We'll be watching a movie, something, or watching some type of movie, and we'll be like, that is not good form.
Right.
Supposed to pick your leg up, get your knee up.
Coaching pole vault, I know we never did that drill right, whatever that drill was.
I remember I asked him once, have you ever done this? He's like, nope.
I remember the good naps in the high jump pit, so I'm just being honest.
Not every day though, Coach Crosley. Not every day. It's every now and then.
We say up by the ears, up by the ears, and it had to be like get your arms, your form in places up by the ears. So our kids today still say up by the ears. So I think that'll go throughout even if our grandkids run. Crosley will be able to continue throughout our family.
There was a day we were at track practice and we were doing a little running, a little stretches. You know, he likes to talk to everybody to see how the morale's going on the team. And I had this ungodly bleached blonde hair at one point. It looked like blonde taco meat. I am not kidding. I had this terrible hairstyle and I was not the most attractive looking kid either. So him and one of the other coaches came up to me and he said, "Hey, guess what, man? I heard the girls talking and they said you were the second most popular guy in school, second best looking guy in school." I was like, "Really?" I believed him. You believe your coach? And I said, "Oh yeah, well, who's number one?" He goes, "Everybody else." I was like, "Oh man, that was a good zinger." Due to this invention called Facebook, you actually get to become friends with people you didn't think you might ever see again, or people you wouldn't think or might be around, whether they live in the same city or not. So to see Coach Crosley interacting with former students, it's great that he's still into what the high school's doing. Of course, he's still currently employed there, but he really does have a sense of team spirit and pride when it comes to who he is and what he supports. And I really do enjoy looking at his posts. I'm still a Hollywood Heights man myself, you know, once a Falcon, always a Falcon, right?
You know, one of the things I like is how he lets us into his world via Facebook. And whether it's a celebration in his life or personal matters, you know, we're still, we as in his former students are still learning lessons from Coach.
I really enjoy seeing his post. I'm really surprised because that's the last thing, remembering Coach Crosley from back in the high school days, that he would be as sharing as he is on Facebook.
I think it's funny because for years he wouldn't let me or my sister have a Facebook. He's like, "No, it's not smart, blah, blah, blah. People waste time on it." And then suddenly one day he had this huge account and uses it a lot. So I think it's funny.
Yeah, so with all the guys who are all fully grown now, and all of them, they are married or in their own careers, he still follows them on Facebook. And when they got married, I'm reading comments, and when something happens on, like when one of the sons ran a national champion or national runner-up, Chad was the first one on Facebook commenting. And it did me good to always see him commenting with them. So I know he follows them to this day. They're fully grown, 30 and almost plus, and he still follows them. I think that's awesome.
I respect it. I think it's nice since he's had so many athletes come through, so many millennials that he can keep in touch with.
I think it's good that Coach Cross is using Facebook. I mean, good for him. It's a way to stay connected with everybody. I'm gonna have to look him up now. Make him my Facebook friend.
I like it. He's on there all the time. He supports his athletes. You can tell that he is really into what he's doing still, and to be, as a coach, to be that involved and that driven to promote and your kids and your program and all that stuff is really cool to see.
You know, listen, he and his memes, we get into these vicious meme wars on Facebook, of which I'm winning. I know he likes to believe he is, but he's not. He's got to chill out with the Facebook on these memes. I mean, it's constantly I have to come back and get him, and he just, it's ridiculous. I know, I'm really actually kind of nervous because he's created files, he told me. So I'm gonna have to really up my meme game, and I'm gonna have to get it together, because now with retirement, that's all he's gonna do. He's probably be on Facebook, annoying me.
Hundreds of people that care about him, and we're just reciprocating that love that he has showed us when we were younger. And quite honestly, at the time, I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now.
Just knowing him outside of
track and field as an adult now, with him on Facebook and everything. He's got like, it's marriage goals for me. You know, I see how he interacts with his wife and his family, and that's something I aspire to do myself. So, way to go, Coach.
You know, it's pretty good. You know, I think his Facebook usage is very good, and I think he does a great job of highlighting former Heights athletes, and you know, which is great because you don't hear a lot of that in the news. So, Coach, thanks for letting us see that stuff, because you know, it's good to see that there's former Heights guys that are making it in either pro football or, you know, and track, going to the Olympics and those types of things. So keep it up, and I like also seeing some of the past memories that you share on there with some of the track guys.
I need to go add him as a friend on Facebook. That makes me feel awful. I didn't even know he had Facebook. And if he did, he probably doesn't use that much, does he? I don't think he does.
He's got like 1,600 friends.
He's got 1,600 friends? That's it? He should have more than that. This is Coach Crosley. I mean, he's a celebrity. Everybody knows who he is. 1,600. I bet he has a lot that he hasn't accepted yet. That could be. Because of you, I am a good father, I'm a good follower of Christ, and I am a good husband.
Because of you, I became a better teacher.
Thank you for believing in me.
Because of you, I always try to be the best version of myself.
Thank you for being such an amazing human being.
Thank you for your humor.
Because of you, I see the positive in every situation.
Because of you, I graduated.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you for telling me when I'm messing up.
Because of you, I am following my dreams.
Because of you, I have a life.
Because of you, Coach Crosley, I am a better person. I am a stronger man, and I have a love for my family that no one else would understand but you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you for your time and commitment that you've given to all the athletes throughout the years.
Because of you, I'll always remember to never, ever give up on myself.
Because of you, I know how to paint my fingernails.
Thank you for allowing me to be myself all those years.
Because of you, I am happy and fulfilled and hopefully a better person.
Because of you, I'm a better coach to my kids.
Because of you, my years at Heights High School have been stupendous.
Thank you for making our in-services more memorable.
Because of you, I'm still alive.
Because of you, I understand the importance of hard work.
Because of you, I feel more responsible and just that if I focus on something, I can get it done, just not to give up.
Because of you, I'm a better leader.
Because of you, I think I embraced my differences, I embraced my weirdness, and just let myself be me.
Cries. Thanks.
The Moore family appreciates you, Coach Crosley.
We love you. You've been a big part of our family. You might as well just be a member. You did a lot for us in high school and that we've taken way past Hollywood Heights, and we thank you for that.
We miss you.
Really, I just like to thank him for his leadership, you know, and showing a young teacher, a young person how to lead, how to coach, how to hit your business, how to be a professional.
Thanks, Crosley.
Because of you, I always try to remember to respect everybody around me.
Coach, because of you, we saved $150,000 to $200,000 in college tuition.
Thank you for the wisdom.
Thank you, Coach Crosley, for being the man that taught me how to be a coach.
Thanks, Crosley.
Thank you for your support, your love, and your just acceptance of me for who I am.
Thank you for being there for me.
Thank you for being such a good husband, dad, and provider.
Thank you for being my best friend, and thank you for being my brother.
Thank you for being born from the bottom of my heart.
He goes above and beyond to stay connected to the few people in his life that he's helped, but have also reciprocated. He wants to share successes. And he's somebody that I want to actively share my success with. I love every time that I get to see him, to tell him what I've been doing and what I'm up to, because I want him to be proud of who I've become. I want him to see that the time he spent with me and that the time he spent with all his other athletes made a difference, and that he truly is the epitome of what a coach and what a teacher's supposed to be. I hope that the impact that he had on me is being reciprocated across everybody else in their lives that I touch today. And that if he's done that 300, 500, 700 times over the last 30 years, the level and the amount of life that he's affected and impacted is tremendous. And he should be so proud.
He's meant the world to me. As a senior, he was my best friend. I played football for him, and he listened to me moan and groan. He helped me get better. I remember one of my worst games ever. We played East High, and I just stunk up the field. I stayed after with Crosley's help and caught the ball, just working on catching. Now, this is a man that lived in El Dorado, so 30 minutes back and forth every day. He stayed hours with me, and he would take me home. You know, I had good parents, but he's like, Chad, I'll take you home. So that's a man spending 2 hours with me that he didn't have to do. And that was different because I'm black, he's white. And if we want to say it, race is always an issue. But for Crosley, it never was. He always made it a good thing. You know and I know. Without him, a lot of us wouldn't be who we are. He's always been there for me, always. When I had the opportunity to become a coach, he opened up the doors and said, hey, come on, help me out. I had no experience. He just knew I knew how to run. And I cared about kids, and I got that from him. Thank you, Crosley. Every day, I get the opportunity to coach. I get the opportunity to teach because of Crosley. The man is wonderful.
I can never make up my mind for a hamburger, so this is going to be complicated. Hold on.
I do have a list if you want to pick one.
Okay, maybe so.
Yep, you look great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being. Thanks for being, not
Believe-
being us.
I said thanks for
I know
believing.
what I said being.
Okay. See,
All
I told you.
right. All right. Thanks for believing in
us.
Okay. Thanks for believing in us.
Now I'm directing, and I'm not a professional director.
Well, and I'm not a good actress at all, as you already know.
Okay, so
The leather jacket? Oh, well, I mean, I haven't worn this in years, and when I was putting it on, I was amazed how big it is on me, and I'm a lot bigger than I was in high school, so I can't imagine how big this jacket was on me when I was in high school, and plus I was also 20, 30 pounds lighter in high school, so this thing was probably huge on me.
No, his dad was great-granddad, Crosley was grandpa, Chadwick was son, and I was grandson. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Crosley.
Thanks, Coach. Janelle, stop it. Oops, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. We're gonna have a blooper reel.
Okay.
Thanks.
Why'd I come with you?
If you walked into his closet, how many clothes would not say Heights Falcons on?
How many what? I'm sorry?
How many pairs of his shirts or pants or whatever would not say Heights Falcons on?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah. He's got 30 years of
Right. But it just shows the nonstop dedication at the same time,
Okay. I think so. All right. It's pressure, Luke. You're over there with a non-dry mouth. It's pressure. Okay, go.
I just mentioned that. All right. Describe Crosley using one word.
Oh, Jiminy Christmas, this scotch is too much.
Because of you, Joe Dirt. I no longer sell snakes and sparklers. I sell the real fireworks.
Congratulations on you.
What were you getting ready to say?
I wasn't going to say that. I want to say congratulations on your
Congratulations on your retirement.